WSLS 10 News at 11 starts right now.
Now at 11, anger tonight as the city of Charlottesville begins to pick up the pieces from Saturday's chaos. Why civic leaders can't decide who's to blame.
And despite that violence in Charlottesville, communities in Southside aren't worried about unrest over their Confederate monuments. Why they say they're just not concerned.
Plus, a warning to North Korea tonight among all the pleas for peace. All of this as the president targets a nation widely credited with containing the rogue nation. We'll have the latest for you on the North Korean crisis. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm John Carlin.
And I'm Lindsay Ward. New tonight at 11, many people around the Commonwealth are now pointing fingers at who they believe is responsible for this weekend's violent rally in Charlottesville.
Now, the city's police department is blaming the protesters, while the Virginia American Civil Liberties Union is accusing the department of not doing its job in protecting people. And some are even criticizing the federal court system for allowing the rally to even happen in the first place.
WSLS 10's Rob Manch explains the many sides to this story.
Late Monday afternoon, Charlottesville's police chief stood in front of cameras, placing the blame for violence in his streets squarely on the protesters committing it.
We had agreements and worked out a security plan to bring the groups in separate entrances. Again, they decided to change the plan and entered the park in different directions.
But the Virginia ACLU contradicted that statement in a release Monday, saying, quote, the policing on Saturday was not effective in preventing violence. In fact, law enforcement was standing passively by, seeming to be waiting for violence to take place. The ACLU sued Charlottesville earlier this month when the city tried to revoke the permit for Saturday's rally on grounds that it could get out of control. Federal Judge Glenn Conrad agreed with the ACLU, arguing the city was being unfair to the Unite the Right organizers and lacked evidence to pull the rally permit. His ruling states in part, quote, there is no evidence to support the notion that many thousands of individuals are likely to attend the demonstration. But thousands did show up, and one died in the streets, while dozens of others were injured. Monday morning, in an interview with NPR's Morning Edition, Governor Terry McAuliffe laid the blame for the rally on the ACLU, stating, quote, the city of Charlottesville asked for that to be moved out of downtown Charlottesville to a park about 1.5 miles away. We were unfortunately sued by the ACLU, and the judge ruled against us. Now, as people in Charlottesville mourn the loss of 32-year-old Heather Heyer and 2 state police troopers, Chief Thomas says there are regrets.
We lost 3 lives this weekend, a local citizen and 2 fellow officers. We certainly have regrets. It was a tragic weekend.
In Charlottesville, Rob Manch, WSLS 10.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm John Carlin. Tonight, we are remembering the 32 lives that were taken 10 years ago. We remember the survivors and the first responders, and we reflect on the resilience of the Virginia Tech community. Today's solemn anniversary began with light. Each year on this date, the university lights its ceremonial candle at midnight. The candle was lit by 2 students as the Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets formed up around the memorial. Following the lighting, the names of the 32 victims were read out loud.
Ross A. Alameddine.
Rima Joseph Samaha.
Caitlin Millar Hammerin.
The Corps of Cadets then stood guard for 32 minutes. A statewide moment of silence was held following the annual wreath laying at the memorial. WSLS 10's Colter Anstead has been following the remembrance events, and he has more now on this annual tradition.
Just like past years, the wreath was placed at the memorial here on the drill field, marking the moment the shootings began. But for many, the tradition carried extra meaning this year, with this being the 10th anniversary. 10 years ago today at 9:43 a.m., a gunman went on a rampage that would leave 32 people, including himself, dead. This morning at 9:43 a.m., Governor Terry McAuliffe and university dignitaries walked from Burris Hall across the street to the memorial.
I definitely think something like that is appropriate, and I didn't expect anything less. I definitely think it reiterates the stance that, Virginia Tech means to the Commonwealth.
It was the second official commemoration event of the day. The first took place at midnight when hundreds gathered on the drill field to witness the lighting of the ceremonial candle at the memorial.
And each year it's a little bit different, but the same. And I think overall it's just a fitting way to tribute.
I think as a kid when it happened, I didn't feel like I had really that many connections to Blacksburg, but now that I'm here, it means a lot to see just how many people come out.
2 students walked from Burris Hall, lit the candle, and walked back, symbolizing the memories of those who died that will forever be with the university.
Matthew Joseph Laporte.
Jocelyn Couture Novak.
The victims' names were read, Taps was played, and the Corps of Cadets stood guard for 32 minutes while those in attendance watched in solemn silence. Even the flags were still.
You don't want to have the stigma of it just being a tragedy. And this week has definitely been a week of celebration of life.
The candle here at the memorial will be extinguished at 11:59 tonight. On the campus of Virginia Tech, Colter Anstadt, WSLS 10.
Life-threatening work hazards at the Salem VA Medical Center prompt yet another investigation by OSHA for a second time this year.
Our years of investigations in the medical center show a continued pattern of complaints that aren't fixed until people working there blow the whistle. 10 News anchor Jenna Zibton is working for you, continuing our exclusive investigations into the latest complaints.
OSHA investigators spent several days at the Salem VA Medical Center in May. Last month, they issued 5 serious violations that they say could result in death or serious harm.
Exit doors not marked correctly, doors that don't swing the right way, and electrical hazards. Multiple employees made complaints about the medical center, and an OSHA compliance officer was sent to investigate. They found 4 buildings where doors didn't swing the right way, leading to the outside. Buildings that house the Women's Health Clinic, substance abuse, and mental health. Another building didn't have an exit marked correctly. Other buildings have hazardous conditions with concrete steps that are broken. And the last violations are for electrical hazards that could lead to fires or electrical shock. We took these violations to the Roanoke Deputy Fire Marshal Ronnie Campbell, who pointed to the Station nightclub fire in 2003. Where dozens of people died because of the exits.
You see people that bottleneck up in a door, and a lot of times that's where people perish, is because maybe an inward opening door or just so many people merging at that exit at one time. It just, piles the exit up.
We obtained this email sent by the Salem VA Medical Director Rebecca Stackhouse. In it, it says, quote,
"We had a visit from OSHA related to a concern which had been raised in 2014 regarding some door closures and attic stairs. We fully acknowledge that although we had a good plan in place for correction, the correction to the doors were not completed fully." The email goes on to say, "With your help in reporting issues to your supervisor and with the continued support, we can ensure open communication lines are maintained about projects and other concerns as presented by staff. We can also ensure that items do not fall through the cracks." But other concerns raised earlier this year have fallen through the cracks. A separate investigation 10 News told you about had OSHA involved after complaints of mold and 2 employees reporting health issues. OSHA issued serious violations after an employee didn't get anywhere with their complaint to the Salem VA.
Our perspective is that management was made aware of it some time ago, and there should have been some action taken to fix the situation long before it got to the point that one of the employees had to file a complaint with federal OSHA.
Those mold violations have been fixed. As for the recent violations, we took our findings to the president of the union, representing about 90% of Salem VA employees, Anita Campbell, who walked around with OSHA when they visited. Campbell says she thinks the VA is trying.
It's not going to happen today, and it may not happen tomorrow. The government is a little on the slow side, as we all know, so it takes a process.
The Salem VA had a meeting with OSHA this week to talk about the violations. We asked for someone from the Salem VA to appear on camera. They would not. Instead, they sent us a statement that says, in part, quote, "We recognize that it did take longer than appropriate to correct the progress of these findings due to staff turnover and transition. We are implementing an electronic tracking log to prevent this from occurring in the future." As you can see in these pictures, some of the items were fixed, but they're still waiting on a custom door for one exit. The stairs had some repairs, but not all, because they can't reconstruct stairs in buildings from the 30s and 40s. So they put up warning signs. The Salem VA says they are also looking at other doors and exits throughout the medical center campus to see if other fixes need to be made. They are also doing hazard training with staff. Jenna Zibton, 10 News, working for you.
To Charlottesville now, where the Hokies and the Who's are meeting for the 99th time in a series that started in 1895. But it's the recent history that matters most. Hokies with a 13-game win streak coming in. Alyssa Ray is in Charlottesville with more on tonight's festivities. Alyssa.
Well, this week is about three things: food, family, and football. So put down your Thanksgiving leftovers. It's time for an in-state rivalry that's expected to be a cornucopia of a good time. The Virginia Tech-Virginia game goes with Thanksgiving weekend like turkey goes with Thanksgiving dinner. But instead of passing the roles, Virginia quarterback Kurt Benkert is passing downfield. And Benkert's stats are as loaded as your first helping of mashed potatoes. He's thrown for almost 2,900 yards and 25 touchdowns.
You just see a guy that's playing with a lot of confidence. He's always had good ability. He's got a live arm, tremendous accuracy, very capable with the ball in his hands as far as great pocket presence. And I just think really playing at a high level right now.
They are going to push it down the field. They're going to take shots. And, it's a part of more so than just doing it, they are good at it. They're completing those things. I mean, anybody can just heave it down the field, but they're making people pay.
At 6-5, the Cavaliers have already exceeded expectations after a 2-10 campaign a year ago. But a win against their in-state rival would be whipped cream on the pumpkin pie.
We know what we're capable of. We know what we can do. I think we showed that last week when we're playing really well. We can play against anybody in the country. And it's just about being consistent and doing it every single day in practice and then carrying it over into game day.
Now, as far as putting pressure on Kurt Benkert, the Hokies defensive line took a hit as Vinny Mahota is out for the rest of the season. But as you can see, the teams are warming up behind me. We're gearing and ready to go. Kickoff, of course, 8 o'clock here in Charlottesville. Live for 10 News, I'm Alyssa Ray.
All right, thanks, Alyssa. Now to the full slate of region finals and a River Ridge rematch of state champions from a year ago, this time in a region title tilt. Eric Johnson is in Blacksburg, where Salem was stunned by the Bruins earlier this season. Eric.
Hey, Appy, a lot of things has changed since their first matchup 2 months ago, but the one thing that's been consistent, and that's winning for both teams. And not only that, but the way it's taking place. Blacksburg's defense has gotten better each and every week, and for Salem, they've discovered that keeping it simple is their key to success.
If you followed us through the high school season, there's no doubt names like Cole Beck and Tyquest Terry are familiar. But it's perhaps the names you don't hear that often that are making just as big an impact for the Bruins. While the offense cranks out the points, the defense has held up their end of the bargain. Blacksburg has not had more than 28 points scored on them all season. On the other side, Salem has gone back to the basics since falling to the Bruins in Week 5, and they have seen favorable results, scoring a minimum of 42 points over the past 2 months. And while they're on a journey through a tough Class 4 to their third straight title game, Coach Magenbauer believes tonight's rematch will show if they truly have improved.
Well, we'll find out if we've turned the page, actually. We've played better, and we've just got a little cleaner, and we've got a little smarter over the last number of weeks here. But at the same time, once we play on Friday, that'll sort of tell the tale right there.
Our defense is playing well, and, it's just they've been playing good all year. It's just our offense. I know we have a lot of big names, and everybody talks about our offense, but our defense has been strong all year, and they keep getting better, and I think people are starting to finally see just how special they are.
All right, we got two disciplined teams that have a plan and a purpose for not only tonight, but much further than that, but who will execute at a level that will carry them to a win and a spot in next week's state semifinal match. That remains to be seen tonight. We'll have the answer, of course, tonight at 11 on WSLS 10 Sports. But for now, live in Blacksburg, Eric Johnson, 10 Sports.